So today, let's just tear up the old retirement rulebook. We're going to explore a blueprint that says financial independence isn't really about becoming a millionaire. It's about getting your life back. And spoiler alert, the price tag for that freedom, it's probably a lot lower than you've been told.
Okay, so let's just dive right into the big one, right? The question that I'm sure keeps a lot of us up at night. What is that magic number? How much do you actually need to be done with work? We're just constantly hit with these huge, almost unbelievable figures.
Yeah, for so many of us, the number that gets thrown around looks something like this: $5 million. And when you see a number that big, let's be honest, financial freedom just feels like a fantasy, right? Something for other people. I mean, it's a number so big, it feels kind of hopeless. Like, why even bother trying? But here's the thing. What if that number is just wrong? Or at least wrong for the goal we actually want? What if the real goal isn't some massive pile of cash, but just buying back our own time? Because this plan we're looking at today says you need way, way less to get there. Okay, so that brings us to our first big idea, the freedom number. We're going to unpack the surprisingly simple and honestly kind of beautiful math that makes this whole thing possible. And here it is, the number at the core of this whole blueprint. Yeah, not 5 million, 500,000. And look, I know what you're thinking. That's still a chunk of change, for sure, but it's a goal that is just worlds more achievable than the alternative. And it definitely raises a pretty important question. And that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth can $500,000 possibly be enough to live on for, well, forever? The answer isn't some kind of trick. It's just a different way of looking at the math. Well, here's the magic behind it. And it's not really magic, it's just math. The key is you're not actually spending the $500,000. Nope, you invest it in a balanced portfolio, and you just live off the growth, off the returns. According to this plan, that can generate about $42,500 a year in passive income. And that works out to about $3,500 a month. A paycheck that just shows up every single month, whether you clock in or not. And this is so, so important to get. The whole point of this $500,000 blueprint isn't to make you rich like we see in the movies. It's not about yachts or fancy cars. It's about getting to a place where a job is something you choose to have, not something you're forced to have. It's about becoming free. But you have to know the numbers only work if you make a pretty big shift in your mindset. And that idea is the perfect lead-in to our next section, choices over things. You can think of this as the operating system, the mindset that you need to make the financial hardware we just talked about actually run properly. It's the psychological shift that makes the numbers click into place. To really get this, we have to completely redefine what wealth even is. So just forget the car, the big house, all that stuff for a second. In this new model, true wealth isn't about the stuff you own. It's about how many choices you have. It's the accumulation of options, of autonomy. This table, wow, it really lays it all out, doesn't it? Over on the left, you've got the classic status mindset. The goal is to get more things, which means you need a massive income, maybe 10 grand a month just to keep it all going. The result? They call them golden handcuffs. You're stuck in a high-stress job you can't leave. But on the right, that's the freedom mindset. The goal is to get more choices. Your needs are way lower, maybe 3,000 a month. And the result is the greatest luxury of all, your own time and your own autonomy. So, okay, what are these choices we keep talking about? What does it actually feel like in real life? Well, it's the power to say no to a project you hate. It's having the real, actual time to chase a passion. It's the freedom to just walk away from a job that's draining your soul. It's being totally present with the people you love. At the end of the day, it's about owning your own time, your own calendar. That's it. All right, this leads us perfectly into our final big idea here, a new definition of wealth. And it's a bit of a paradox, but it's about why having less can actually make you so much richer. Man, this quote just hits it right on the head. Think about it. If you've built a life that only needs 3 grand a month to run, you are, for all practical purposes, way wealthier than the person whose life costs 10 grand a month just to maintain. You have a much smaller engine to power your life, which means it's so much easier to fill up the tank and get your freedom that much faster. Here's another way to think about it, and I love this. True wealth isn't your income. It's the gap between your ego and your income. The less you need, the less your ego demands, the wider that gap gets, and the wealthier you truly are. It's about getting your desires under control, not just running on a treadmill trying to feed them forever.
So let's wrap this up by turning the question back to you. After going through all this, just take a minute and really ask yourself, what is your definition of wealth? Is it something you measure in things, or is it something you measure in choices? Because really, the answer to that question, well, that's what will decide the number you chase, the goal you set, and ultimately the kind of life you end up building for yourself.